2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order, starting with the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next up is the approval of open session minute meetings from June 21st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
First up are policies for second review.
Good morning, everyone. The first policy before you for second review is policy 1-4, board responsibilities. This policy came before you all at the June policy committee meeting because we didn't have one in July. And then it went to the board at the July meeting. There's been no input from any stakeholders since it came before you. And so staff is requesting that this policy go for approval at the September meeting. Okay, there's
Any
no
questions
question.
on policy 1-4?
I have none.
I'll wait and we'll do them all at the end. We'll move to policy 3-7.
Okay, 3-7A, sexual harassment for employees. Similarly, this came to the policy committee in June and to the board in July. We've had no input from any stakeholders, and staff is requesting that this go for approval in the September meeting.
Any questions or issues on 3-7A?
I have no questions.
I don't have any either.
Brings us to policy 4-1.
Okay, 4-1 came to the policy committee in June. We made some revisions at the policy committee meeting, and then it went to the board in July, and there's been no input from stakeholders since that time frame. So staff is requesting that this go for approval at the September meeting as well.
Any questions on 4-1?
I have no questions.
Brings us policy 4-7A.
Okay, this one came to the policy committee in June, to the board in July. There's been no input from stakeholders, and staff is requesting that this go for approval at the September meeting.
All right, hearing no questions, concerns, I look for a motion to take policy 1-4, policy 3-7A, policy 4-1, and policy 4-7A to the full board for approval at our next meeting, September 1st.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next brings us to policies for first review.
Yes, good morning. These policies, most of them have come from recommendations from the North Carolina School Boards Association due to changes in either statute or state board policy. The first one is policy 1-14, which is the Board of Education policy. And so there were some changes that were recommended by the School Boards Association about waivers of policy based on school improvement plans, and that came out of state board policy. And then as I was going through the other policies, I found some things that I thought would clarify ours and make it more concise. So the other two changes, the first one in the paragraph under policy adoption was a clarification one. And then the suspension of existing policy provision was also to kind of support that clarification. So we would ask this go for review at the September meeting.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
2/3 vote to suspend this policy, and any existing policy. So if we are suspending this policy so that we can do another policy, it still requires 2/3.
If you're going to fast track the policy,
Yep.
that requires the 2/3 majority.
So both the suspension of policy and then the policy itself.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions on 114?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move to policy 4-5.
Okay, 4-5, this was a recommendation from the School Boards Association, was to add the immunization that the pneumococcal conjugate, I don't know, which is for children entering school before the age of 5. The other changes, the strike through of whooping cough was at our nurse's recommendation because pertussis just before that is the whooping cough. And so it's just with some clarification. And I have sent this to the nurses for their review, and they are fine with it. And so we would request that this go for first review to the board at the September meeting.
I have a question.
Yep.
The 30 calendar days of the first day of attendance is when they have to get them in. Does that apply to the second paragraph under immunization? It's for the addition ones for the 12th and 17-year-olds.
I don't know the answer to that. I will find out from the nurses and let you know.
Okay.
I don't think it does, but I could be wrong.
Okay. That's the only question I had. And we took out whooping cough. But
Yes,
that's
because pertussis is whooping
Yes.
cough,
Yep, it is. Yep.
so it was duplicative.
I have no other questions.
Kirkpatrick, you okay? Hearing no other questions, going to policy 5-10, school improvement.
Okay, this is policy recommendation of changes comes from the School Boards Association based on State Board of Education policy. And it just is a clarification, and then we added some clarification pieces like the development of the plan and the school improvement team. So these have gone to Dr. Breedlove's department for review, and I've received no concerns from them. So this, we would ask that this go to the board for review at the September meeting.
Okay, so every school, so every school has to have a school improvement team, even if they don't have to have a plan.
Every school has to have a plan. There's different plans that low performing schools have to have, but all schools have a basic school improvement plan, which has things like bullying plans and those types of pieces in them. And then there is I think there's a beefed up plan for those schools that are low performing or have a requirement under state law.
Okay, and then there's 2 strikeouts in the 1, 2, 3, third paragraph under school improvement team. Why did we do that? The school improvement team will follow all legal requirements in developing the plan and obtaining school approval. Why did we take that out?
I think they're elsewhere. I think that's
okay. It's up there. Okay, and why did we take out the other striked out on that same paragraph?
Let me see.
It's putting it on the website. Why are we not putting it on the website
I think
anymore?
that's moved also. Let me see if I can find that.
Okay.
Plan, development plan. Yes, if you look on the second page from the end, there's a posting the school improvement plan online paragraph.
Okay.
So I reorganized it and moved it to a more appropriate place.
Okay. On page 3, if anybody has anything before then, is discipline part of the school improvement plan? Does that go under B on page 3?
The conflict resolution piece?
Yes, discipline is a big issue now, and I think that needs to be part of the school improvement. A lot of what's going on in some of the schools and the grades that they're getting and things like that is because some students are interrupting classroom teaching with discipline.
Yeah, if you look at what page is it on? It's paragraph H on page 2 of 6. It talks about the plan must address safety and discipline concerns.
Okay.
And then it should also include a behavior management or positive behavior support program.
Okay. Those were my only questions.
I have a question, a few questions. I know it's mentioned on page 1 about as far as the makeup of the improvement team, what the right, the school improvement team. Are there trainings for these members, like for the parents throughout the school year, so that they can, I guess, stay abreast of what their expectations are?
That should be handled in the school improvement team meetings, that they should be going over what the expectations are and what the needs are. I will talk to Dr. Breedlove about what the extent of that information that's provided to them is.
Okay. Also, with these school improvement plans, how effective are they? How effective are these plans throughout the school year? I know they start them in the beginning, but have we had challenges in the past with follow through, making sure that pretty much these schools are implementing what they've created line upon line, precept upon precept, I guess?
There's a requirement that they be reviewed throughout the year. So there should be, this should be something that is being reviewed and revised if necessary for the following year. I've not heard of any challenges or any concerns that we're not following through with these.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And also, with the teams, are there a certain amount of times throughout the year they're supposed to meet, or that's up to the discretion of the team?
It's been a while since I was on a school improvement plan team. So I was a parent rep when my boys were in school. And I know that we reviewed it periodically throughout the year. I don't think it's a one and done, but I can dig into that more.
Okay.
I have one more question. The parent, you have to elect the members of the school improvement plan. Can there have minutes of it so that people know what was elected? It's been an issue in the past.
I believe that they since they have to follow the open meetings law, that should all be publicly available.
Should is a great word.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so can we put something in there requiring that?
Yeah, it says that they have to comply with the open meetings law. And I added the language about, being at a convenient time for parent participation. Let me, I will check with the schools to see how they post their minutes or how they're available.
They don't.
Okay. Or I will find out how they're available, and I'll work with Dr. Breedlove and the school performance directors on making sure we have a way for parents in the community to access that information. Since they have to post it on the web, I would think that there's a way to access it. So I will figure that out.
Any other questions on policy 510? Hearing none, we'll move to policy 8-3.
Okay, and Mr. Denton here is to help us through this. The revisions to this, the administrative guidelines essentially were recommendation of Mr. Denton and his team. And so while we were doing that, it was confusing to me. So I thought it'd be confusing to everyone else, though, to make changes to the guidelines as they were written. So as you can see, for the administrative guidelines, I did a full strike through of the current guidelines, and Mr. Denton helped me develop new administrative guidelines. And then for the policy itself, it was really just some more clarification saying that we would develop guidelines since we already had them. And then just clarifying some language, such as we don't refer in policy to the board as the Union County Board of Education. We just refer to them as the board, and doing some clarification on the policy like that. And Mr. Denton is here if you have questions or concerns about the revisions to the administrative guidelines or policy.
I'm concerned about how hot the buses get if you don't idle them. I mean, it's hot. It's still in September. It's hot in May. It's hard. It's not. And these kids are packed into the buses and it's hot in there. So if we can't idle the bus with air conditioning, then
And what's the point of that?
I don't, fuel and the emissions from the fuel. But sometimes and the bus drivers, because a lot of them don't go into the school and it's hot in those buses.
Yeah.
We clarified, and Mr. Denton, we put the language in there that they could idle during extreme weather conditions for the purpose of warming or cooling. I think the previous guidelines, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, just dealt more with
I saw that.
heating it up. Yeah.
I just don't want the bus drivers getting in trouble because they're idling when it's 80 some degrees outside.
Ms. Handel, if I may, that's one reason why we were recommending a change. We weren't in compliance with the old policy because we were idling buses to keep them cool in those extreme conditions. And so we felt like by redesigning and reapplying the guidelines, they would much better fit the actual operation that we're running today. So we wanted to be in compliance with, of course, with board policy and with the administrative guidelines, but we had to make some changes to those to be in compliance.
Okay, can we take out the signage? Why do we have to do that?
I think that's legally required, is it not, Scott?
That was recommended by the NCSBA policy. So we were just kind of mimicking what the NCSBA policy recommendation was.
I'm thinking they took it from state law. Let me.
So a lot of the schools already have the carpool lines that say no idling, but I'm talking about the no idling signs in the bus drivers. So do we have to put new ones over by where the buses are, or what? I don't even understand that.
Again, I might add too that the prior policy was written in 2005, and the diesel exhaust fluid, DEF fluid, was not part of the requirement for diesel engines back then. That fluid reduces the emissions that come out of school buses significantly, and so not saying there are no issues with pollution, but it's significantly reduced down to where it's almost negligible now, especially with the new technologies that are out there. So I'm okay if we do strike that. I don't, unless it's a requirement. I'm okay with striking the signage rule in the bus parking lot.
Well, maybe you and Mrs. Morris could have a discussion about that after. I just thought, why do we have to do this? I get it. I get that it's bad, and the carpools, they deal with that because there's a lot of cars going in there, but the buses are getting out of there faster. So
Yeah, we'll certainly look into it. I'm trying to, while you all were talking, I was trying to look up to see where it came from.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Denton.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. So since we have these, I have a question, and it as far as bus drivers who have to comply to these new changes, how are we looking on bus drivers?
So as of yesterday, we were down 17. This morning, we lost another one. We're down 18 drivers as of right now. We normally get a few to come in, surprises come in at the last minute to have licenses and drive and help us out, but you can't hold out on that. So we're right around 18 short. Of course, we have staff members that will drive buses. So we'll have the majority of those covered when school opens, but we are having to do doubles again this year because we've not picked up any numbers at all from when we ended school last year, and we didn't anticipate we would. We lost 22 retirement at the end of last year. So we've added some folks this summer, but not near enough to undo doubles and undo some of the strategic things we've done over the years to make sure we can actually run buses and get kids to school.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Ms. Morris, that signage thing came from 6306 regulation code from NCSBA.
There we go. I knew there was some requirement that we had it in there for.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Morris, you're looking at that and let us know.
It's required.
Mr. Denton just found it.
So it is required.
What was the citation again, Mr. Denton?
So it's Regulation Code 6306-R from the NCSBA. This is a sample regulation. It does not say it's required. So I guess we could adopt or not adopt, but it was recommended by the NCSBA.
Oh, that's their policy and their administrative guidelines.
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
dig out the statutory requirement, or if it's not there, we will remove that. And I will let you all know.
Anything else on 8-3? Hearing none, we'll move to our last policy, policy 8-4.
Okay, and this policy, and some of the changes came from the recommendation of the School Boards Association. I think it's due to changes in the law, and then the conflict of interest piece. And then Ms. Lamar reviewed the policy and made some clarification based on the changes to the meal costs, because the balances previously were based on a week at the cost of the prior lunches. And so we have changed that to reflect the current cost of our meals.
On 14, the conflict of interest, can you put the reference to the policy about conflict of interest?
Sure. Yep. We'll add that to the cross references.
Reference to it. And
Yep.
yeah, last year the General Assembly changed it to 2 months before we can take indirect costs.
Right.
Ms. Hinetail, can you give me an example of number 14,
14.
what you just
So
mentioned?
it's only people who have that their job duty has procurement activities. So let's say they're going to buy milk and Denise would be the person to talk about this, but let's say their family owns a dairy and
Gotcha.
they want to do that. There's conflict of interest that it has to go through in order to do something like that.
Gotcha.
Did I
Okay.
say it right, Michelle?
Yeah. So Ms. Lamar could not recommend a company that she has ownership in to be
Right.
a vendor, those kinds of things, or someone high level in her department.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Michelle, the only question I had is on the bottom of page 2, under when it goes into the meal charges, starting with the elementary school. It's a little unclear. The middle and high school, I think, is a little clear. The elementary school is a little unclear. If they do have a negative balance, we are going to feed these kids, correct, and allow them to create a negative balance.
Yes. Denise, you want to speak to
for the
that?
elementary school.
Yes, we've never kept elementary schools from making any charges. So when the policy was written, they just wanted to have something in there to say that I would keep everybody informed of what the charge level is at the schools. So elementary will get to charge all meals.
So the language that starts after the red in paragraph B, Ms. Lamar, instead the student will be served a meal provided no cost to the student, et cetera. Would those provision also applicable to elementary students?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so if
all
you want
elementary
to,
school students can charge.
we can
And
duplicate
be fed.
that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Denise, keep going. I apologize.
Denise, you're on mute.
Elementary school.
Nope, she's muted.
Okay. Elementary kids are going to be charged every meal. It will continue. There's no worries that they'll get every meal. So yes, so the being fed a meal is part of the elementary.
We can duplicate that language from middle and high school into elementary, if that makes sense.
Okay. That's all I have.
I have one question. So since the price of food has gone up, This may be a crazy question. Has the quality of food changed?
No,
Or is it-
sir.
No, no, sir. That's right. We're still buying our high quality food. We're doing everything. As a matter of fact, we're having trouble getting some frozen and canned vegetables. So we're turning to more fresh fruit and vegetables. And
Okay.
we've got some federal money to help us buy more fresh fruit and vegetables.
Okay.
Any other questions on policy 8-4?
Since somebody asked about the bus drivers, how are you, Denise, with school nutrition employees?
We're doing pretty well of being able to get those positions filled. Our weakness is going to be in the substitutes, just when somebody's out, not having anybody to cover those positions. And that's what a lot of our hang up was last year, is just when we have outages, is not have enough people to help us stretch to do the job.
Do substitutes have to have specific requirements? Not requirements.
Certification.
Qualifications to sub if you need them.
No, they just need to be able to lift and to do some cleaning. That's the biggest thing for us.
Gotcha.
And meet, all the background checks and everything that the school system has in place.
Okay.
Hearing no other questions, I'll
If you
look
put
for a
on there
motion.
that you're able to burn water, then I don't think you need to hire that person.
Hearing no other questions, look for a motion to take policy 1-14, policy 4-5, policy 510, policy 8-3, policy 8-4 to the full board for first review at our next September 1st meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next items to be taken to the full board. We were going to take policy 1-4, policy 3-7A, policy 4-1, policy 4-7A for full review, policy 1-14, policy 4-5, policy 510, policy 8-3, and policy 8-4 to the full board for first review at our next September 1st meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 20th at 8 a.m. via Zoom. If there's no other questions, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks,
all
everyone.